girl.
Man, Vanessa, when I asked you to help me get some resources together, I didn't think you'd bring the whole library.
Well, let me tell you, there are a lot of resources out there. But before we get to that, tell me how the meeting went with your boss.
Well, I think it went as well as can be expected. I mean, needless to say, Dave was very surprised, and he was very concerned with me and my health, which was great.
Claire, I'm so sorry to hear this. This is not good news. It would explain a few things that's been going on recently, obviously.
But then we got into the accommodations that I asked for, and that's when he started asking the hard questions.
Well, it's a big question for me too. The added cost of bringing another employee out to Las Vegas, how the client's going to feel about it. You know, and I'm also thinking about the stairs and talking about the elevator and how other employees are going to feel about you moving into another office. There are operational costs that have to be considered.
You know, I mean, he knows nothing about MS, and I know I've got a lot to learn. So that's when I called you and asked you to help me out with resources that you could come up with. But before we go there, I just want to tell you, Vanessa, how much I appreciate you being here for me. Honestly, I mean, this has been a really, really tough time for me, and I do not know what I could have done without you.
It's good just to have somebody else listen to what you're saying and to maybe bring you back to reality, because sometimes some of the things that you feel that are happening to you, you may feel that it's very overwhelming and severe, and if you have somebody to bounce your ideas off of, they can bring it back to, well, let's look at this realistically and let's see what are some of the things that you can do, and maybe it's not as bad as you think it is.
Hey, you've been there for me in the past. Now it's my turn to do something for you. But keep in mind that I'm good for moral support and for helping out here and there, but I am no expert. That's where all these organizations and professionals come in. I think the place where you need to start is with the National Multiple Sclerosis Society.
We at the National Multiple Sclerosis Society have a variety of different publications and brochures that deal with practical ways to accommodate multiple sclerosis symptoms in the workplace. We have publications that deal with the ADA, that deal with disclosing multiple sclerosis to employers. We also have referrals to community-based resources and organizations that may also be able to provide you with some assistance in terms of gathering that type of information.
Some chapters have formal employment, job development, career counseling programs that are available to people with MS.
The primary support that I've received from multiple sclerosis chapter was early in my diagnosis. I think the most helpful was the information night seminars that they provided on what is MS, what's the probable course that it's going to take, and so it was education, physical therapy. It was extremely beneficial to both myself and my family in the early years after diagnosis.
One of the things that they offer is a newly diagnosed program, or a program for people who have just recently been diagnosed in the last year or two. Way back when I was diagnosed, I remember attending that, and that was really helpful. In addition to providing you with a boatload of printed information, they also gave counsel, and first of all, it helped you understand you're not the only one facing this. They helped to validate your feelings. It's okay to be really honked about this.
Here's something about the State Vocational Rehabilitation Office.
Within each state, there's a vocational rehabilitation agency whose goal it is to assist people with disabilities in gaining and maintaining employment.
Vocational rehabilitation provides information for people to perform jobs once they have a disability, to explore what the person's residual strengths are, what their skills are, what their interests are, assign them various assessment tools to figure out what they can do and what they do well, and then to explore career change or keeping the job that they have with the accommodations that will utilize their strengths.
Mary, why don't you show me a little bit of what you do in your workday?
Okay, well, usually I'm on the phone.
So someone from the state VR agency can actually go to your work site and look at your job and look at your job functions.
And then I have to reach over here and write notes down.
I think every job site analysis is different. Every individual is different. Every body size and shape is different. Looks like you're having a little difficulty rolling here and then trying to get up close to your desk. And so it's very individualized on what your job tasks are, where you work. Now with the monitor, does it feel like it's too close or far?
I have a hard time seeing because the font's too small and it bounces back and forth and it gives me vertigo.
So whether it's in an office or in a warehouse or working in a truck, we look at how we can adapt and make it the safest for you. So Mary, how is your new setup working?
It is working great. I don't have that spasm in my neck anymore, and I noticed that my wrists are a lot more flexible, and I can reach everything while I'm on the phone. I can be on the phone without having to squish my head and at the computer at the same time.
The headset is probably one of the biggest changes that you've made, so you don't have to cradle that phone. That's one of the hardest things you can do on your body. But I like the way instead of adjusting the computer over at your old desk, they were able to bring in this adjustable computer table for you.
Oh, here's something that's really cool. The Job Accommodation Network.
And what they do is they provide free telephone consultations to individuals with a variety of different types of disabilities. And you can speak with one of their consultants and explain your job duties, explain your symptoms, and they can help you to brainstorm some practical ways to accommodate those symptoms.
Okay, now, I don't think this is going to happen, but what if my boss isn't very cooperative?
Well, you'll want to educate him. In fact, all these organizations that we've talked about have information and special programs specifically designed for employers.
And if that doesn't work?
In our litigious society, people always are prone to pick up the phone, call my lawyer and sue them for $1 million. And maybe it's a $1 million case, most likely it's not. And maybe it's discrimination, maybe it's not. We don't know. But the first step is to figure out what happened.
I think that it would be important to really look at the structure of your own company. Is there any sort of support that would be available from the employer in terms of human resources or the personnel department?
My reaction is don't go running to the courthouse right away, because sometimes the chapter our chapter here, National Multiple Sclerosis Society, can intervene and educate an employer and educate the employee as to what is and is not copacetic in the workplace. And sometimes the lawyer can help smooth it over. And not everything has to wind up in a lawsuit.
Know that there are resources out there within the community where you might be able to where you may be able to get connected to an attorney who specializes in this type of law.
The other thing I would do is calm down, catch your breath, don't react in anger, and then say, did this really happen? And if it did, let's develop an action plan. Because if it happened and it's real, it's going to happen again.
And then ultimately, really, if the environment becomes so difficult to you be the one to make the decision if you might want to leave that job and find something else.
Karen Jackson is an office manager for an orthopedic surgeon in Virginia.
Is this new patient scheduled for surgery?
Over the years, MS has forced her to make some dramatic decisions and changes in her life.
I'm an athletic trainer by trade, and I've worked in athletics all my life, and I've played basketball, I played softball, I played lacrosse growing up.
Karen brings a lot of talents to our office. Her academic degree is in athletic training, so she has a wonderful background in sports injuries and dealing with athletes.
And so I've been able to transition, because I've worked in orthopedic surgery for 20 years, to go from being an on-the-field athletic trainer into an administrative practice of orthopedic surgery.
From the moment Karen learned she had MS, her first source of support and guidance came from her husband, George.
I'll never forget, we're standing in our bedroom, and I looked at him and I said, well, it is official. And he looked at me and he said, well, I'm not going anywhere, but I will not feel sorry for you. And that's really the basis of everything, because yes, I have MS, but no, it doesn't stop us.
When MS forced Karen to reconsider her career options, she turned to an employment counselor to help with her transition.
He has tweaked my resume. He has made the job bank available. There's a program called Operation Job Match. And when I was in transition of a job and not sure that I wanted to stay in the medical field, I went and looked at their bank for hours. And he just has immense resources that he makes available to us. People that have a disability of any kind are probably the most employable, because we know how to multitask. In the time it takes us to get to work, probably what it takes for most people to be at work. In 8 hours, we've already put in 3 to get there. I think that we are probably the best at making adjustments, making changes, and so we are probably better to employ than most because we don't use it as an excuse. We have to overcome that.
And so I think if you're willing to look beyond the disability and see what these people can do, then it's well worth it. And it's unfortunate because a lot of people, when they're in a job scenario, that's the first thing they see. And being a minority, I'm used to that because that's the first thing people see with me a lot of times. And so, you know, I try to be particularly sensitive about that look at the positives and look at what people can do.
I used to be 24/7. And not being an athletic trainer that's on the field, being more in an administrative position allows me to not put in those hours anymore. And you have to just sit back and say there's more to life. And MS has made me refocus and say that I can't just work all the time.
And her husband, George, continues to give her support and perspective.
It's been a challenge for both of us. I think we both work a lot just because of the nature of our jobs. But I've always said that I wanted her not to work as much. And so when I see her slipping back into her old routines, I try to remind her that there's more to life than working behind that computer or on the telephone.
I mean, yeah, you gotta work, but then you also gotta keep a balance between work and life. I mean, you gotta take care of yourself and Jenny.
Oh my gosh, Jenny, I gotta get home. Okay, you know what though, Vanessa, thank you so much for all your work, and I know this is gonna be a lot of homework, but it's definitely gonna come in handy when I meet with Dave again to discuss the accommodations I asked for.